You know when you play a game and you're like, wow, this character is well good. I love playing as this character. But then, like, other times, you're like, this character's not very good. They're just a bit rubbish, aren't they? That's weird, isn't it? Why does that happen?
Over the last few years, we've had a number of games featuring a bunch of well-written and acted characters, some of which have really stuck with us. Off the top of our heads, we've had the likes of John Marston from Red Dead Redemption, Big Boss from Metal Gear Solid fame, and of course Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us, to name a few. All of these characters have been cited as some of the best video game protagonists of all time. But one thing which stands out is that they are all morally conflicted in some way. Marston, Big Boss and Joel all struggle with the idea of being a good person, and have all done horrible things in their past that they're trying to escape from, which for the most part drives their characters' arcs forward. For example, Marston was an outlaw who managed to escape a criminal life and start a ranch with his wife and son, but he's called upon by the government to help take down his old gang, leading to the titular redemption story. Titular? What's titular mean, Mike?
Titular means redemption story is mentioned in the title of the game, so Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, so it's title titular, I get it. It's not because there's memories in it.
The moral dilemma that these characters face is kind of what hooks players in, because it gets them thinking about why these characters act the way they do. This creates tension, ambiguity, and drama within a story. Some of the best entertainment around these days is centered on the moral dilemmas characters face. Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, and Westworld, for instance, are all examples of TV storylines driven by tension, moral ambiguity, and philosophical musings, and they are all critically acclaimed TV shows.
Tell us about how you love Aloy, mate.
Listen, Aloy...
Defensive mode engaged there. Listen.
Aloy is cool. Aloy is one of my favourite characters that I've played as in a while because, I don't know, I just kind of related to her in a lot of ways. I liked how she was a lot more competent than everyone else that she came across. I thought she was just a cool character.
Just admit it, you like her titulars.
But Aloy's got that depth as well, where she's kind of been rejected and stuff, and she's an outcast. People don't like it. In the same way that Geralt, you know, I love playing as Geralt as well because you walk into a bar and people don't go, oh, it's the hero, it's the saviour Geralt. They go, it's that prick again. What's he doing here? They hate Geralt.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I just like that kind of dynamic of people not being a big fan of you, even though you do a hell of a lot for them and help them out in a lot of ways. And also, importantly, we all like playing as badasses, don't we? That's a key thing, isn't it?
My favourite characters, they're not always happy about what they've done in their lives, just like we are. It's relatable, you know. Sometimes we make bad decisions, but we're trying to make up for it, and there are some things that have gone bad for us. There are some bad decisions that we've had to make, and that's how the humanity of these characters comes forth, and you can identify with that, and you want to feel for these people. You feel for your character, and you want to do right, and you want to put the world right. And that's how a character grabs you. You want this character to succeed and to put things right. And I think that is what makes a great character for me.
And another thing as well with these characters, I think something that connects them all is the fact that they're all self-reliant, and that kind of plays into, you know, one of the reasons that we actually play video games. We get control over a world in quite a unique way, you know, in a way that you don't get in real life. You are in control of the situation. So when the character is also a self-reliant lone wolf kind of character who gets shit done, and that's part of it as well. They've got that, oh my god, that's like, oh fine, I'll do your thing for you kind of attitude. I think that plays into that, you know, that power fantasy kind of thing that some video games lend to you, and that's why those characters are particularly enjoyable to play as well.
The way that I assess what I like in a character is I look at characters that I don't like. For instance, the protagonist in Scalebound looked like a little shit that I wouldn't spend 2 minutes enjoying playing. Why is that? Because I don't know. Because he looked like an entitled little, I don't want to say millennial.
I thought you were going to say the C word.
No, I was going to say the P word, and then I went for millennial, but no. He's not. No,
dropping a C-bomb on us. I thought that's what
I'll be dropping those C-bombs. But the game looked awesome. Being a dragon, riding a dragon, looked awesome. But the protagonist, I don't identify with him. He's like a teenager who, you know, who's all cocky. It doesn't seem like he's had much life experience. He's not mature. There's nothing that connects me with him, basically. Who are your worst characters, protagonists of all time? Let us know down in the comments.
Another key factor in creating a good protagonist is, of course, that they are relatable in one way or another. Players like seeing themselves reflected in the character in some way, not least because it allows them to gain a better understanding of that character and their actions. Joel and Marston are relatable to many people because they are both dedicated father figures, willing to do anything to protect the ones they care about. Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, who I accurately described earlier as an awesome character, is actually one of my favourites from any game in a while. That woman is an absolute badass. Now, I'll shut up about her in a minute, but one of the things that make her relatable is the way that she's been outcast by her tribe, treated almost as a pariah by some of her peers. Now, that is a very literal metaphor for the way we can all feel outcast in our own lives in some way or another at some point in our lives.
What's an absolutely crucial ingredient in all these characters, though, is that they're all fundamentally flawed in some way. Remember that caring father John Marston we talked about a few seconds ago? Well, he's also a violent outlaw with a very dodgy past, one which we may get to see some more of in the upcoming RDR2, and he just can't escape that. Ends up being the central thread running through the entire game. Nathan Drake, funny, quippy, charming Nathan Drake, can't give up the adrenaline rush of adventure and ends up lying to his wife because of it. Booker DeWitt is a capable, dependable private investigator, but he's also a gambling alcoholic who's lost everything. It's flaws like these that make these characters seem more human. It makes the whole experience feel more believable, because even though these games take place in an exaggerated setting, none of these characters would be out of place in the real world.
The flaws are really important because everyone is flawed, and that is one easy way to gain a connection. If you see something in yourself that maybe you don't explicitly admit that you've got these flaws yourself, but you see it reflected in someone else and you're drawn to that character for that reason.
I know where it is now. You're a secret ginger, aren't you? You dye your hair. That's why you relate to Aloy.
Confessions of a secret ginger.
Sorry, dude. Getting as many jokes as I can in. I'm going to be away for a week, so get good jokes in.
Just churning them out.
There's just something very one-dimensional about a character who's just all good, no bad at all. You see it time and time again in TV shows and everything these days that the main protagonists have always got this dark side or shady things that have happened to them, and that's the way forward.
If you create an attachment with a character, you get the audience to like them, and then over time you reveal some information about them that maybe is not very likable. Then you're like, oh god, do I like him? That's an interesting connection to have with any kind of media, not just video games. Also, flip it over to villains as well. So when the villains seem evil, this is a big problem you had with Mass Effect Andromeda, was it? Because early on at least they just seem like they have no motivation other than being the bad guys. You've encountered this villain who you have no reason to connect with other than the fact that they are bad guys. When you learn some information about why they're doing stuff, what their motivations are, that's when stuff becomes interesting. And in a lot of games like post-apocalyptic games and stuff like that, everybody's got kind of good motivations for what they're doing. They're looking after their own people or whatever. That's like a classic storytelling trope in a lot of post-apocalyptic games. So you can create connections with villains just as well as you can create connections with heroes, just based on telling us different conflicting bits of information about their personality. They seem good, but they've done bad stuff. They seem evil, but they're doing things for good reasons, maybe. These characters all represent a slow but steady shift in video games towards more mature storytelling. And that's crucial because the gaming audience is maturing as well. Now, honestly, it is. Gamers are getting older all the time, which means there's a growing audience that wants these mature, relatable characters. We want more depth. We want more complexity. We want to feel connected to these characters in different and interesting ways. The classic nameless chosen one, silent protagonist destined to save the world without ever saying a word is kind of a dying breed these days, outside of a few stalwart exceptions like The Legend of Zelda's Link and Doom's phenomenally badass Doom guy, whose anonymity and silence are all part of the charm.
That said, the silent world-saving protagonist is one of the easiest ways for some games, particularly RPGs, to create highly customizable main characters that people can imprint their own personality on through dialogue, story choices, and so on. It's the classical idea of games being an escapist fantasy where players control an unnamed entity who exists within the game world almost as an avatar of themselves, giving them agency over the game's world and events.
So what does make a good video game protagonist? Well, good writing, voiceover, and facial animations are all vital building blocks. Without all those, you're going nowhere.
But then there are some secret ingredients. They need to be flawed human beings, maybe with some moral ambiguities behind what they say and what they do. In short, they need the qualities of a normal, believable person. A nice set of tits doesn't go amiss either. What, Aloy?
That just completely undermines everything we've been talking about for the last half an hour. So what makes a good video game protagonist for you? Let us know what you think down in the comments. Remember to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We've got some more content right here for you and a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. We'll see you next time.